So here's me in grade 11 visiting university for the very first time, and here's me in grade 12 applying to university, and who knows, 5 years later, here I am sitting with you telling you 7 things I wish I knew about university. But this time I want to do a bit differently. I wanted to tell them in stories. So the first story I wanted to tell you guys about is my homies, or me and my best friends. I remember vividly in first year, I have met a lot of people, but I struggle with making deep connections. Or in other words, I struggle with making friends. And going to second year, I met them in the business class. And ever since then, we were in the same group chat from third year to fifth year. And now that we work, we talk about work, we talk about school, we talk about personal issues. And it was one of those things when I realized relationships are some of the more intangible things that you get out of university. But as you grow, you realize it turns out to be one of the most important things, or one of the best things that I've taken away from my university time. So if there was something that I could tell myself back in university, is that school, or there are gonna be tough times, whether if it's with exams, with recruiting, with on the jobs. It's always great to have someone to keep you accountable, to give you constructive feedback. So be sure to invest in people, invest in your classmates, invest in your relationship, your friendships. So the second story I want to share, you guys, is don't take advice too literally and be careful with receiving advice. So here's a picture that is from Hustle and Grit, a class I took in my fourth year, where our professor would invite a lot of Canadian entrepreneurs to speak with us about their entrepreneurial journey. I think this class was just like a great example of my 5-year university, because you get to hear from so many people, and a lot of times you might feel this like inferior complex where I'm still learning, I don't know anything. So you ask advice from a lot of people, and you will hear a lot of advice from a lot of people. And I think it's very important to recognize and be cognizant about what works for others might not work for you. What works in the past might not work in the future. And what I have learned about that is, instead of replicating what they did or taking their advice too literally, try to have a list of people that you look up to, a list of people that you feel resonated with, and try to find common traits, try to find common characteristics that you can actually mimic, or that you can actually start following. So for the third story, I wanted to talk about the feeling of being lost. So here's a picture of like a 6:30 sunrise. It was COVID, it was my third year summer. Towards the end, I really liked the work that I was doing, but I felt like I wanted to explore something else. So then I was having this like existential crisis, because a lot of my friends are doing the third year summer on track to getting their return offer, and here I am with third year summer thinking I wanted to do something else, and I was unsure what exactly I wanted to do. So at that time I was feeling really lost, I was feeling really behind, because yeah, just like I felt like I had to start from zero. But at the same time, looking back in hindsight, it was probably one of the best decisions I've made so far, because if it wasn't because of that, like anything that I did in my fifth year, anything I did in my fourth year, or anything I would have done now would have been so different. So a lot of times, feeling lost is normal in university. Feeling lost even in your early career, it's normal. I think a lot of times, don't be too harsh on yourself and don't anticipate too much, because I remember there's a saying where like, I think a lot of time people like overestimate their ability to achieve things within a year or two, but they underestimate their ability to achieve great things in 10 years. So the fourth story I want to tell you about, it's about health. This is like a picture of a huge $300 Instacart order. That happened with my roommate when I got really sick in my fourth year. After I got really sick, because I was stretching too thin across everything that I was doing, and decided to just cleanse. I stopped skipping meals, stopped skipping gyms, and I bought a huge like Instacart order and started to like meal prep like 4 or 5 days of like meals. And I think it was that time when I started to realize like building great habits or treating your physical self better it's so important because it's not because of self-confidence, it's not about physique, it's not about looks. I think it's about stamina. If you want to have great performance, you're gonna have a great engine, right? So like your body is your engine. Make sure you eat well, you sleep well, you exercise well, so that you have the stamina that you need to do all the things that you need to do. So for the fifth story I wanted to share, it's about the art of saying no. So this is probably one of my favorite picture. It's an exec social at my apartment basement for a club that I started. So I remember in my fourth year, at the end of my fourth year, I was offered a leadership position for a different club. And at the time I was thinking of starting my own club. And I was thinking between, if I had taken the position, I probably wouldn't have started the club. And if I've taken both positions, then I probably wouldn't have done a great job in both. I eventually decided to say no, and it turned out to be the best decision ever because a lot of times in university you are bombarded with so much information, so much opportunities, and you're overwhelmed. You're constantly feeling overwhelmed, and sometimes you feel obligated to do certain things. But then I think something that I wish I could tell myself earlier, which is that start saying no to things that you think that are not that helpful, because with every decision comes with an opportunity cost, and being good at saying no, it means you're being good at protecting your boundaries. You're taking care of your mental health, because otherwise, if you don't say no, you're stretching yourself thin, and it's just a recipe for burnout. The sixth story, I wanted to talk about timelines. So here's a picture of a founder/VC dinner that I went in my fourth year, and it was very energizing to know that there are so many different people from all these different universities, from all these years, are just doing their own thing. And that was the moment when I kind of realized a lot of times back in university, or especially earlier, I have a toxic habit of just comparing yourself with other people. Like I would associate my net worth with the jobs or the internships that I was able to land. I would associate my confidence with the club positions or the academic grades that I achieved. But then it's very unproductive because you don't know the people that you're comparing yourself with. The metric that you're comparing yourself with, it's not a great indicator of whether you're gonna succeed or not. As time goes, you start to realize everyone is kind of in their own timeline, or most important thing that you want to compare yourself with is the old self, like your yesterday self. So with the time when you realize your most important task is to progress or improve, all of a sudden, like, people around you, you no longer see them as, I don't know, like frenemies, enemies. And in that way, you start to develop a much healthier mindset. And then you naturally be a happier person. So for story number 7, I don't have a theme for this one, but basically what I wish I had earlier, which is that I could have taken more pictures. So here's a picture of me and my friends on our retreat for fellowship. We do this every single year in January in our winter retreat. We go to the frozen lake and like go on the lake and take pictures. And I feel like in university, there are a lot of great moments. And I wish I could have taken my phone or my camera to capture more of these moments. But yeah, so these are the 7 things I wish I knew about university. If you enjoyed the video, please consider a like and a subscribe. And I see you in the next one.